one of the things I want to mention, because the phrase social justice has become kind of like a lightning rod for some people. And there are some people who say, oh, the phrase social justice doesn't occur in the Bible, or they associate it with political views that they don't agree with. But you cannot read the prophets without hearing over and over and over again about the importance of justice. And Micah chapter 3, our chapter for today, begins that way also. And I said, listen, you heads of Jacob and rulers of the house of Israel, should you not know justice, you who hate the good and love evil? So justice is, again, over and over, part of what God is concerned about. God is a God of justice. But in chapter 3, what I want to focus on is actually the call and task that is given to Micah. And that's found in verse 8, where Micah says, but as for me, I am filled with power, with the Spirit of the Lord, and with justice and might, to declare to Jacob his transgression, and to Israel his sin. So the first part of that verse is about Micah's call, that God has called him and filled him both with power and with the Spirit of the Lord, and with justice and might. So this is literally what God has poured into Micah as a prophet who came from a humble village. He wasn't part of the inner circle of power in Jerusalem like Isaiah was. He's from a little rural town, Moresheth. And yet God fills him, equips him with what he will need to carry out his ministry. And no prophet can work without the Spirit of God, the Spirit of the Lord at work in him, and without the power and might that come with God's Spirit. And Micah specifically calls out that he is filled with justice and might. There is just something burning in his bones when he sees things that are not right, are not fair, are not just. And so that's part of his call, how God has called him. And his task, what a difficult task. I just want to remind us today that the prophets have to go to declare to Jacob and to Israel their transgressions and their sins. It's very hard to get up in front of people and have to say, this is where you're falling short. This is how you're letting God down. These are the consequences, the negative, harmful consequences of you not living the way God has told you how to live. And that is a difficult job that Micah and all of the prophets have. And how fortunate are we that the Bible is such that it includes these voices that specifically are telling the people, you've sinned, you blew it again, you've fallen short, you need to get your act together. That's part of the great, great wisdom of the Bible, and why it's so valuable, is it doesn't still the voices that tell us where we're falling short or are wrong. It has preserved and encouraged them, and we need to listen to them and to follow them.